CEO and founder, and we're going to try to get down to the basics of AMP and figure out how AMP started as an idea and how it's been executed so far. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Very good. Well, everything starts with an idea. I teach this to my students from middle school up through college and business people that I coach. We go through life and we see things that could be better. And about 1992, I got the opportunity to travel extensively, and I went to Europe after college, and I traveled for about 6 months, 3 months in Europe and 3 months across America.
Okay.
And I saw something that to me was just a huge deficiency in my experience traveling America, my home country,
and what was that?
Louisiana. The main thing is that most people that I met in America were not familiar with the local community that they lived in. So they couldn't tell me the rich history and culture of their community when I would ask a question like, why are you here and why is this community here? As opposed to the experience in Europe, where almost everywhere I went, I asked the same questions. Tell me about this community, why it exists, what makes it special, what's unique, and people just seem to have this deep knowledge of the place they called home. And in America we didn't, and it made me realize, wow, yeah, I was never taught a thing about my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana.
Right, yeah.
So I went to the best schools in Shreveport that we had to offer, but nobody taught me about Shreveport. They taught me about other things and around the world and around the state and around the country, but nothing about my hometown.
Yeah, so you were just seeing that there was a marginal difference between like people in Europe, they like know all this stuff about their community, and then people like anywhere in America, and they were just like, I don't know, just been here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there was an absence in education.
Right.
And so the idea for American Millennium Project, which is now today AMP, is to teach local history and to inspire people to learn their local history through the tour mechanism. So not from a classroom, not from a book. These are good things. But the best way to learn, especially to learn about your community, is to get out into it and travel it and see it and be guided in a thorough, thoughtful guiding process, which is an AMP tour, which is fun. So you're not there to learn, you're there to have a good time, but you will learn. That's what we've designed with our tours.
Oh, that's interesting. So can you give us a brief overview of your life before you started AMP?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
My family, my grandmother, my mother's side was from a little small town in Louisiana called Church Point, which is right outside of a big city called Eunice, which is a really small town itself, which is outside of Lafayette, which is in Cajun country, all the way down to South Louisiana. So that's my grandmother's line. Came from there. My grandfather came from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, wow.
So the two people that were most influential in my life after a divorce and my parents separated when I was 5, my grandparents took over my education for the most part. And I got the New York Yankee and the South Louisiana girl culture mixed into my upbringing. So that's my family background, but I've lived my entire life, 54 years, in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I have come to know it very well because I had an interest in it, and I sought out the history and all the different things about Shreveport, the hidden secrets. So I spent most of my time here. I have traveled extensively, so I've gotten to do that. I've seen the value of travel. I teach all of my student members the value of travel. This is the greatest form of education, to get out there and go find things that interest you, and that's where learning takes place. But that's what I've done in my own life. So my life did that. Now I raised 3 kids. I have 3 children from 26 to 18 in age today. So I've experienced marriage and raising 3 kids, and I ran a business for 25 plus years. I was mostly in the real estate business.
Oh, okay.
So I did that commercial and residential real estate, but did other business entity and activities throughout that time. So this is my nonprofit work. It is now today my full-time job, but I've had a lot of experiences in the business world leading up to this.
And would you say your experience in business actually helped you start AMP and keep it going?
Yeah, it definitely gave me the understanding of how you create something unique. and how you compete with other ideas that are out there, and how you separate yourself and differentiate the business model. A nonprofit is completely different from running a regular business.
Right.
A whole lot of new things. You're learning a lot about those today as an employee.
Right.
But business certainly gave me the skills to do the fundraising, the marketing, and the overall business planning that takes place within the nonprofit that I have today.
All right. And so we went over what the idea for AMP was, but how did you get started? Like at the very raw, you're just in the idea stages. How did you get started with AMP?
That's a good question. And everything starts with writing for me.
Me
So
too.
when I have an idea, often we get ideas and we go to sleep and they're gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our best ideas are lost. Some of them happen when we're in dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And we wake up, and how quickly do dreams escape our minds?
Just in an instant.
So I became a journalist probably in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Journalist meaning I started writing in a journal at the encouragement of a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So a teacher taught me that skill. I've developed it over my life. I've been writing ever since. Mm-hmm. So in 1992, I'm traveling Europe. I'm writing down a daily journal. I'm traveling America. I'm writing down a daily journal. And then I continued that, and the big ideas just kept coming with, hey, you've got to do something here. This is an opportunity to create something, to change things, to give people a better, higher quality of life in this project. So I wrote about it for 8 years before I launched it at the Millennium, which was the year 2000. And a lot of changes were taking place at the turn of the century. What a great time to introduce a new idea. So I had written about it for 8 years and developed it, changed it many times over, still changing it to this day, making modifications and improvements. And it all starts with writing. So that's the way it developed with me, was through writing.
Yeah, I think writing is a great skill that needs to be perfected more, especially in our youth, because I know so many younger children who just, when they go to write, their handwriting's bad, they don't know proper grammar. It's a whole thing. Yeah. And how did you choose the name?
So I launched it at the Millennium. So when I was writing from, let's say, 92 to getting closer to the year 2000, it was such a big year.
Right.
It was a big year to all the people that were living in the late 1990s. Everybody was looking forward to it. My project had the idea of not being something small, just in my hometown of Shreveport, but a full American experience. So we were going to grow this idea and spread it across North and South America. So I wanted to incorporate the word America, and then the Millennium, and then we put together American Millennium Project. So that's where it came from, at the Millennium. Today, one of the major changes we made was changing the name. So from American Millennium Project, which is impossible to spell for most people, the word Millennium, we've just summed it up with the 3 letters, and AMP is our new name, and that's what we're branding and moving forward with that name.
Yeah, I definitely still feel like knowing the idea behind the name, the original name, is very important to what AMP does. Yeah. So with that being said, what were the foundational views that you wanted AMP to have, and how have they changed? Yeah,
the initial views was to teach that local history to the local person. Right. Students mainly, but we teach elderly groups. We take them on tour. We take corporate boards on tour, corporate groups. We take all kinds of a Bible school class can spend some time on a Sunday afternoon doing a tour together. So we do adults, we do private tours, but the main focus was always in teaching our young people and giving them these things that can change their life and make it more interesting and enjoyable. And so that's the main focus, is with the youth.
I see. And so in the beginning, obviously it's very hard to start a business. I'm sure it's probably even harder to start a nonprofit. What kind of support did you receive from your community in doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So nonprofits have to go out and compete for public dollars or for private dollars, just like a McDonald's would, or a new restaurant, but in their own little small niche. In a public nonprofit, you have to prove an impact on your community, and then you have to present that impact, and then you have to compete for dollars.
Right.
So every community has a group of businesses, a group of philanthropists within it that want the new ideas to emerge, and they will support those new ideas financially. So I have a new idea, and I present it to the communities that we go to, and we compete for dollars that way. So that's one of our fundraising mechanisms. We also do sponsorships for businesses, so a business can sponsor a tour. They can sponsor a group at a college or a high school or a middle school, and they can get their business branded on that tour and on that in that group for a sponsorship fee that helps us finance the operations. The greatest expense we have currently is transportation. So we rent a first-class bus for each tour that we give our students, so they're not riding on a yellow school bus, but they're getting a first-class experience. That's the goal, and it enriches the whole experience. So that's our largest cost right now.
Okay. And so in the beginning, I know AMP has been completely self-financed,
Yes.
Correct? And so in the beginning, you weren't so worried about, oh, I got to impress these people. You were more worried about, I just want to get this going, right?
Correct, yeah. The main thing was to get it out there and see if it stuck. So in business and nonprofit and life, your ideas, you throw them out to the world, and if they have value, they will rise up. Okay. They will stick. So we've stuck for 24 years now.
Hey.
Now we've had our ups and downs. Fundraising is always a challenge.
Yeah.
But we know we have a product and a service that benefits the community. We just have to get the word out to the community and do the proper fundraising, and we'll continue to raise money and see the project grow into the future.
All right. And so I just want to know, for me personally, what was it like to start absolutely from scratch? Would you say it was super duper hard? Would you say it was like, it wasn't any kind of big deal because you had that background in business?
Yeah, well, starting something new that doesn't start with making money is a sell to my friends and to my family and to my wife in particular. So I went through 2 marriages. Both of my wives were highly skeptical of this nonprofit idea that I had.
Right.
So they were used to me making money and providing security for the family. And they knew that I had this dream and this idea that I thought I could make work and turn it into something that would be a full-time career. But they didn't buy in. So when you have that, when you have your family around you that's skeptical of the idea, that's a difficult thing to overcome first.
I'm sure.
And then as you start presenting it to people outside of your family and your friend group, and you start getting positive feedback, which is what I received. When I took this to Virginia Sheehy, who was a community leader in about the year 2000, 2001, and she heard my whole plan for it, she endorsed it. She thought it was one of the greatest ideas that she had come across in all of her years of business and public service. And so she put her stamp of approval on it, and then she recommended me to go talk to other people and share the idea with them. So as that started taking place in the early years, that gave me the confidence to continue and not give up on my dream. So a lot of times this is a model that's taking place with most nonprofits. Nonprofits fail at a much greater rate than a small business fails, and a small business fails at an extremely high rate. So it's extremely difficult. If you believe in something, I just encourage people that don't give up on it. Correct the weaknesses, strengthen the product and the service, and that's what I've continued to do over the years. And today we are where we are because of a lot of successes and failures, but a lot of community support that came over the years.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, would you mind explaining who Virginia Sheehy is?
Oh, well, Virginia Sheehy was the first female senator, state senator in Louisiana. She was a community leader up in Shreveport who was known throughout the state. She had numerous leadership roles on state committees, and she was probably one of our most famous citizens in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Oh, awesome.
She's no longer with us, but her legacy certainly lives on with the Virginia Sheehy Biomedical Research Center. Her name is all across the community in numerous ways, and still in Baton Rouge today in our capital, they recognize her and all over the Capitol building and all over the community.
Okay. Well, that is so awesome to hear that someone like that was like, AMP is a great way to try and get people into the community. And what's your favorite part about being the CEO and founder of AMP?
Well, I'm not big on titles, so those things don't mean much to me personally. Right. However, I teach legacies to people. I want young people to begin with the end in mind, that their life is going to end. We're all going to have the same fate. At some point, we have to start thinking, what are we leaving behind for the next generation? So in creating an entity like AMP, I know that today, if I were in a tragic car accident, that this idea would continue without me. Okay. So that's enough for me. I'm going to leave behind something that is going to make the quality of life in communities better, and I'm extremely happy with having that level of success at this point. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see how that would be comforting. Yeah. And what impact are you hoping that AMP has? Are there like community programs that you plan to do? Like, give us an overview.
This is the meat of the whole idea. So I'm not just here to entertain a group of students who are getting to leave campus for a day to go on a tour.
Right.
I'm trying to change the lives of these students one at a time by giving them something that they visually see and learn about that changes their perspective on their hometown.
Right.
So as you know, most people grow up in a small town or a medium-sized town like Shreveport, and if they get a good education, the first thing they do is they leave. The grass is always greener somewhere else. So my hope and the impact for this idea is that people will learn and absorb and appreciate where it is they come from, still travel around the world, still go see the great wonders around the world, but go as an ambassador of their hometown. Go as somebody that knows where they come from, knows themselves, and then goes out into the world and shares that with others. That's the impact of AMP. These tours do have a transformational effect on people that go on. They see things, they're like, wow, I had no idea that my community had so much to offer.
Yeah.
That's the game changer, and that's what we provide. Now, we also have programs. So we teach leadership, where I'm a big leadership development person. I come from multiple different leadership training courses.
Of course.
And I have a training program for students in middle school, high school, and college that builds their leadership skills.
Okay.
We have a phenomenal character education program. Now, history of character education, most people in America know that we have fought many battles against having religion intertwined into the school systems, public schools, and it's completely not allowed. The AMP doesn't promote any religion, nor do we degrade any religion or any religious idea, but we teach a concept of humanity, and we teach people to have character above all other things, and that your character will demonstrate to the world who you are, and we teach our students these things. So these are some of our programs that are integral to my purpose in life, and enriching people's lives. It has nothing to do with history, but it is a character and a leadership program that builds a foundation for any human being. And it's just very rewarding to see those things also get to be taught, in addition to the history and the culture that we teach on our tours.
Of course, yeah. And so, on the topic of tours, what would you say is your favorite tour out of all the regions that AMP's in, out of all the tours in every region? What's your favorite one?
Well, I'd have to stick with my hometown.
Okay.
And I'd have to stick with the first one in my hometown, which takes us to the core of the city, where we developed initially, which was downtown Shreveport today.
Right.
That was a little piece of land that was at the intersection of a bayou and the Red River. And it happened to line up with what was called the Texas Trail, which a lot of the pioneer families were coming across the southern United States from the Carolinas and Georgias, and they were not planning on stopping here in Shreveport. They were planning on going to Texas. And that was their destination, but a lot of them found this was a great location. And they created this city. Captain Shreve and a group of businessmen got together and purchased some land, laid out a grid for a downtown, for a city, and from that spot developed. So our AMP downtown tour takes you to the 7 wonders of downtown Shreveport, which is where this community got its origins, where it all began. And we showcase the 7 most interesting sites in that downtown community.
Right. And I totally forgot to put these in my list of interview questions, but let's touch on why you're so big on the seven wonders of every town, why each one of your tours has seven parts.
So in marketing, you need to have a theme. A business needs to have something that's catchy. Everything needs to have something where you can grab attention with.
Yeah.
So that's hard to do when you're talking history. History is such a boring concept for so many people because they've been ruined in the way that they were taught history growing up. Memorization of dates and figures and people with no connection to anything.
Right.
So that ruins most people on the subject of history. So the seven wonders is a thing that most people have heard of. Seven wonders of the world, the seven wonders of the ancient world. There's the seven wonders of the modern world. What I want people to think about is their little small town has seven places that you can capture and call a wonder that are really interesting stories, really significant to that community's development. And we package it, each one of our tours, with that theme.
Okay.
It gives me a limit, number one. Look, I've done tours before with a group of 30 middle school students. And we went from Graveyard downtown all the way across the city to the Duck Pond and all the way over into Bossier City. We had so many stops on our tour that the teachers were completely exhausted by the end of the tour.
Yeah.
It was too much. So the number 7 is a biblical number. It's a highly important number throughout all kinds of different things. Number 7 is a critical number. And the Seven Wonders theme lets us tie that in and limit the tour. So we're only going to get off that bus 7 times on every AMP tour. And that just gives us a consistent theme, and it allows us to do it within about a 3 to 4 hour period time frame.
Yeah, and I bet teachers are really thankful for that.
Yeah.
And so from the beginning to right now where AMP stands, how would you say AMP has changed?
Dramatically, we've changed. Even up until this recent year, we are coming a little bit further back to our roots of Shreveport and coming back here and spending more time where we started and making sure everything is the way it should be as we're building a model that can be duplicated across the country.
Okay.
So we've changed a lot. When I launched in the year 2000, I didn't launch from Shreveport. We launched in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
So we launched with the support and endorsement of one of the top consulting firms in Washington, who was a former U.S. Senator from Louisiana, his firm. So that's where we started, and we were going to immediately kick it off around the country in different cities. September 11th came 1 year after we launched, 9/11. And that changed everything that I was doing and dreaming about. And we completely changed the whole scope of the project and came back to Caddo Parish, Shreveport, Louisiana. And we launched it from here on a small scale. And if we can make it work in my hometown, then we'll duplicate it elsewhere. Rather than starting all around with the idea, coming back to the one spot, one place, making it a success or letting it go as a failure and trying something else. But we were successful with it in Shreveport, and now we've duplicated it, and now we're in 7 cities in Louisiana with plans next year to enter into Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. So that's our first outside of Shreveport outside of Louisiana expansion will be next year.
Okay, that's exciting.
Well, we've changed a lot. We've changed a lot of details, a lot of the costs associated with a tour, the cost of membership to be a student member in the club, things like that. We've shifted those around routinely throughout the last 24 years.
Yeah, and I know I've recently been working with LSUS to try to get the AMP Club started there. So let's talk about what we took the membership fee down to and why.
The college membership fee has always been $50 a semester. And today, that college fee is reduced all the way down to just a $7 per semester fee for a college member. So that's literally almost nothing, of course. That's not. It's a nominal token fee to join an organization that's going to offer you an in-depth look into the community where you're getting your education. That $7 fee also is the fee for our high school and our middle school membership fee as well. So $7, we like the number 7, that's our tour number. We're going to use that number until we get it exposed to enough students to where we can grow it and change it and that number may go up in the future. But right now, with community support and with writing grants to community foundations and to private foundations, that will help us offset it. We don't want any student to miss out on this opportunity because $50 is too much for them or their family at that time. So we're taking that out of the equation. This is the greatest opportunity for any student that exists. The French club is more expensive, and that's an example. So I'm not picking on the French club. But.
No, I remember talking to the coordinator for all the student activities at LSUS, and she said all the fees range from like $20 to $150 per semester.
Yeah.
So $7 is nothing for a club, and it looks good on your resume.
Yeah, it looks great on your resume, and it's, we want people to come to the club in a genuine desire for this material, for this. You can't understand what that is until you go on a tour.
Right.
So really nothing makes sense until you see it with us, and once you go on that first tour, you'll realize the benefit of this type of organization and what it provides for your future as far as opportunities to grow. So.
And I mean, all these tours are extremely family friendly. I experienced that firsthand because I took my 2 little ones with me, and the whole time the group's just kind of helping me corral these 2 little crazy kids, and it was really a great experience. They loved it. I know I thought I would have a heart attack because I was like, oh my gosh, kids in downtown Shreveport. But it was actually a very positive, very good experience.
And we got some great memories, right?
Of course.
We got wonderful pictures. We've got some great memories, and so you'll be able to show that to your kids when they're teenagers and complaining. Show them all the fun things I used to do.
And so what does it cost for you to put on a tour?
It costs me about $800 to do every single tour. So that's just the basic cost of the transportation. So that's, when we book a tour, we normally book a 4-hour experience. So for the bus driver and for the insurance and for the bus itself for 4 to 6 hours, which is what it takes normally for them to get back to their operations after we do our tour. So it's about an $800 cost just on transportation. That's not me charging a fee for myself.
Right.
I've never paid myself a dime in 24 years of running my nonprofit. So a couple of ex-wives would have wished I had done that differently, maybe.
Of course.
But I have never paid myself. So there's no overhead costs other than the experience that we're providing at this point. And we're not planning on having an office or a location or a physical location like that. None of that's in the future. We're going to run this nonprofit as a real tight ship and with the lowest overhead we can possibly do and give the most people in the communities that we're in the experience.
Of course. And I mean, as far as working at AMP, I will say I work a completely flexible schedule, only 20 hours a week because I work through the school with AMP. And I just work whenever I can, however much I can, and it's good like that. We just work remotely most of the time.
Yep, it's been good. It's been a real good experience so far.
Yeah. And so, what does AMP hope to do aside from building that pride in the community with every student and everything like that? What does AMP hope to do for every community that it's involved in?
Well, we really want to help communities look inward with a sense of pride.
Right.
So we want to build that. When you teach youth, when you teach a middle school student what they learn on an AMP tour, and they go home to their mom and dad and their grandparents and start telling stories and asking questions, which we teach them what questions to ask their elderly relatives. When that experience starts taking place around the community, there's just an impact. There's something that happens.
Yeah.
So, of course, elderly people would love for their grandchildren to come up to them and ask a question. It's normally the opposite. It's normally the old people trying to teach some lesson in life, tell some great story about their lives and their childhood, and the young people being not really interested in the story. Now we've reversed that. So young people are now going home, and they're challenged through AMP to go home and interact with those people in their family and share these things and ask these questions. And we're teaching the old and the new, all these things about the local community. So it's building a sense of community pride and deeper understanding and a deeper appreciation Now, one thing that's interesting is we live in a world, we live in Louisiana and in Shreveport that's got a very mixed past. We've got a very troubled past. So history is fraught with terrible stories and terrible things that went wrong. And how do we teach those things without igniting another flame here today? That's the challenge of AMP, because we don't want to relive the past. We just want to learn from it.
Right.
We want to appreciate the growth that's taken place since those days, but we don't want to sweep anything under the carpet. We want to expose the true stories of the past, recognize that we have not always lived up to the ideals of America or to the ideals of the Constitution. Those things are challenging, but they're part of the understanding and the process that we're trying to convey and teach in the process.
Okay. And so for your tours, do you collaborate with like local historians, or do you just go to these places and you're like, hey, tell me the history about this, let me see if I want to put it into my tour?
Yeah, so a lot of both. So what I normally start with in a new community that I go to, let's take, for example, Lafayette, Louisiana.
All right.
So this is Cajun culture of Louisiana, a very unique community around Lafayette. So I go in there and I first look for a historical society, if the community has one. Of course, Lafayette does. So I go to that group and I introduce myself and I introduce the model that we have for AMP. And if they buy into it, all of the information on the significant 7 wonders and the 7 most interesting things and stories about their community all come from the locals.
Yeah.
So it's not me creating and picking my favorite things that I see by driving around. It's me collaborating with the local experts in each community and then helping design our tours based upon their input.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. So who are your biggest supporters right now, and are they some of the same people at least as from when you started AMP?
Yeah. So my biggest supporters are all of my board members, of course. So I have a 7-member board. Each one of these are professionals that have endorsed and support and give time and energy to building this project. So those are my greatest supporters.
Right.
I also have the support of people like Billy Nungesser, who's our Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana today. So I've met with him numerous times. The Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana is responsible for culture and tourism. So my project fits in that with a leaning towards the education tourism.
Yeah.
And so I'm working closely with Billy Nungesser on some ideas. In the future, we're going to have some very exciting developments from that area, which is a pretty significant move for AMP. But the business community is where I know people. So I spent my career in the local business community in Shreveport. Those are where my relationships are. Those are people that know me. So most of my support has come from business leaders and community friends that I've had over the years in Shreveport.
Oh, yeah. That's actually really cool that you collaborate with the Lieutenant Governor to come up with ideas. And I assume most of them are for Baton Rouge, or are they for all over the state?
The Lieutenant Governor runs the whole state tourism for every community in the state. So that's his role. That's his whole role. He gets to focus on tourism. So tourism means you've got to have something that somebody wants to come see.
Right, yeah.
So we're building up all these different things across Louisiana that make us much more attractive to the traveler from Europe today, or from Asia, or from Chicago, or from California. Tourism comes here because there's something to see. Most people know New Orleans and everything about New Orleans, but they don't know anything about Shreveport or Monroe or Alexandria or Lake Charles. But we're highlighting all of these things across the state.
Yeah.
So the Lieutenant Governor is a big part of what we're going to be doing in the future.
And so, like, when you expand out to other states, are you planning to take that same model where, like, you talk to the local experts and then you get a few things going in like different cities, and then you branch out and you try to reach out to the local government or the state government and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you guys have any input, any ideas?
Just like I teach our students to begin their life with the end in mind, I'm building this AMP project with the end in mind. So we have a model.
Right.
We're really fine-tuning the model so that it can be duplicatable across the state line, across the country, into another community. So if we have a good model, the model should work everywhere. Now, that doesn't mean that, of course, every community has different history and different culture.
Of course, yeah.
but they all have one thing in interest, which is they want their local people to appreciate that history and culture, and they're not teaching it in their schools anywhere in America.
Yeah.
So local history has just been missed. It's like for some strange reason it has been skipped.
Yeah.
In education in the public sector. So it's an easy sell once I get that discussion. The hard part is getting those meetings. The hard part is getting the attention of these busy people that have a million things going on, and here I am with a new idea. So the endorsement of a lieutenant governor, the endorsement of a strong business leader, those things help greatly. And I've got those in our bag of tricks, and we use those frequently to make the introduction.
And so is there absolutely anything else, like if you were going to tell somebody something about AMP that you wanted them to hold on to and be like, yeah, that's all right, what would be that thing that you would tell somebody about AMP that you would want to stick with them?
I think the main thing, and this gets to my motivation of why I do what I do. So why do I do it? Because I live in a world where I see so many people who are unhappy, unfulfilled, unsure of their future, uninspired by anything in their current life. I see this so much around me, and it's like everywhere I go, I see the world and I see the great things, the wonders of the communities that I've traveled to, and I see things differently than a lot of people that are around me.
Right.
So the ambition that I have is that we can inspire people, we can change the way they look at things, and we can raise their individual quality of life. These are our members in the AMP clubs. I can change the individual life through our programming and through our tours, and then I can change the community quality of life the more of those students that we can reach. So this project really has the potential for raising all the boats, which is the old saying is that a community won't thrive and prosper if everybody is not thriving and prospering. And too many places that we live in Louisiana have very wealthy and have very poor.
Yeah.
And the very poor seems to be growing in numbers, and the very wealthy shrinking, and the middle class is just struggling to get by.
Yeah.
So the quality of life is what we're trying to do. We're trying to impact human quality of life one at a time, and then as a community at a time with our program, with our tours.
Okay. And
that's a big idea. I'm not thinking that I'm the savior of the world. I don't have a God complex, but this is the heart of why I'm doing all of this.
Yeah, this is the essence that you've been talking about. And so, do you plan in the future or at any point to do like community projects to like you yourself and AMP improve each community?
Yes, so we have projects all around. In Louisiana, we have 7 cities right now.
Yes.
So in New Orleans, we have a project. We call them festivals, okay? So our festivals are going to drive these ideas around each community. In New Orleans, we've got one on the west end of Lake Pontchartrain that we're doing this year, which is a music festival. We've received a grant from the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation to help support that festival. In Shreveport, we've already had 3 festivals. So we've already had 3 music events that bring people together to appreciate our music history.
Yeah.
And through the music, we can gather people into a good spirit, and then we can share information about our project that way. So we're going to be using these festivals. We also have a thing called an Idea Festival, which I'm very excited about. The Idea Festivals bring a community together around solving a particular problem in that local community with some experts, but with community input on solutions, so that we don't just talk about ideas, we talk about solutions and how to enact those solutions and how to check them off the list that we've done something to try to solve the actual problem. So the Idea Festivals are all part of the community enhancement and raising the quality of life. So it seems there's a lot of different pieces to AMP that are complex.
Right.
But this is all, it's a quality of life initiative, and we've got a lot of different things in it to actually do what we say we're doing.
Of course. And are these idea festivals like completely open to the public, or is there a limit, or just anybody can come?
They're open to the public, but we ask you to come with your ideas on the subject. So we're having one on local political leadership. If that's the topic of the Idea Festival, we want people to come to the room and be engaged in the process that have a base level of understanding of how the topic of the day works, so that they're actually contributing ideas and they're able to absorb the ideas. So we don't want it just to be haphazard or uninterested people, but obviously it's a 2-hour idea festival, typical. This is our model, and in 2 hours we discuss the problem on a high level, and then we get community solutions and to-do lists from that festival. And it's really a fast-paced problem-solving initiative. We got it from Aspen, Colorado. I didn't create the idea, but we're duplicating a very successful think tank in Aspen, Colorado, and we're making it local all around Louisiana. So, and we'll do it everywhere we go. So it's just a way to engage the community in thinking that, hey, we're all here to make a difference. We're all here to make this place better. Instead of complaining about it constantly, this is a way we can make it better through this participation and through offering our ideas and actually doing some of the work.
And so after these idea festivals, how soon after that do you get started with, like, do you collaborate with people for these? Yeah. So how long after the idea festival do you get started on improving whatever it is?
Immediately. So we do them once a year. So the idea festival is we've got 12 months in the year. So we have 12 different topics that we've already created. They're already dated for the whole year, so you can go to our website as soon as it gets back up online, because it's down right now for some reconstruction. But as soon as we're going to publish a list of all the dates and the locations and the topic. And then after that event, now we have a full year before we come back to that topic again. So it repeats each year, and each year there's a reporting on progress that was made from the goals that were set forth from that 2-hour Idea Fest. So it's really a interesting process, and who's tasked with trying to move the needle on homelessness or on whatever else the topic is for that day. So we use local expert panels, and then we use the input from the community, people that are interested in that topic that come out to the festival. That's the model, and that's it recurs every 12 months. So.
And how successful would you say you've been in that?
It's been a difficult thing to get across in the local community. So we've had some good success, but we haven't gotten it to the point where we have measurable results from that yet. It's still relatively new. The last 3 years we've been doing those. So it's success is hard to gauge on that, and the issues and topics are pretty macro. So when you talk about addressing local homelessness, or you talk about addressing public education as an idea from the citizen, these are big projects, but they don't show a lot of rapid movement from what a grassroots community idea festival like ours would do so far. So we will grow that, and each year we're learning more things and making it better and coming away with better results. But it's a process.
Do you think it would do better if you did less ideas, like instead of doing an idea for every month? What if, like, in an idea festival you focused on 1, maybe 2 ideas? Do you think it would do better that way, or?
Probably, especially with a limited staff with AMP and not having a group of people that are tasked with a paycheck to show their results for the work that they do. So we're all volunteer driven right now. So we can't expect somebody to dedicate 20 hours a week to this idea or solving this local community problem. So there's not an accountability system until it gets to that level. But yeah, fewer is better, because you can focus on them and then you can actually show impact, and then you can add new ones as you're growing. So that's probably a pretty good idea, and that's why I hired you in the get-go. So I knew good ideas would come from you. So we could certainly learn a lot and then still make modifications.
And do you plan on hiring more college workers?
Yes. In fact, if you know of any students, or if any students get to see this interview, we are looking for students all across Louisiana right now. We're offering 20 hours a week, so flex scheduling. So these hours you're not reporting to an office or a job site, you're working from home, and the wage averages from $10 to $15 an hour. And so it's really a good experience, and it's a good way for you to build skills into the part of your area of study in college. So we're actively looking to add as many as another 20 students this year into the mix around the state of Louisiana. So.
And for me personally, when you work for AMP, you are going to work on so many different projects, sometimes multiple at the same time, but you're never working tirelessly on anything. Now, I do sometimes just because I get into a little zone and I just go and go and go. But with AMP, you have our weekly calls, and then we get like an idea of what we're gonna do. We work on it here and there, whenever you can, whatever you can do, whenever you can do it, and you basically just report, like send him a little paper, like this is all I did. Sometimes I spend 5 hours going through social media, managing emails and different kinds of nonprofit organization articles and things like that, and that's completely fine. My time has never not been approved. So it's really laid back. It's very low stress, but occasionally there's a deadline or two, and as long as you meet them. And
do you feel like you're getting some skills that will help you in your future?
Because
do you think it's beneficial? You're learning and acquiring things that are going to help you personally in the future.
Yeah, I mean, social media managing is a huge thing right now, and so far I've started the YouTube. I'm trying to piece together an Instagram, and I've started the TikTok page, which I have no clue how to like get views and really make content that panders to what the demographics of TikTok or Instagram or YouTube are. Still working on YouTube, but that all of that is stuff that I didn't know how to do before, but I went out, I researched, I got paid to research, and I've made it work so far.
Yeah, it's been great. So we got a lot to do. We got a lot of capacity for growth, and we certainly, our main interest right now is finding students that'll join this organization.
Mm-hmm.
That'll join the student organization at their school. They can be founding members, so if they join before the end of the year 2024,
mm-hmm.
they will be always considered a founding member of the AMP club in their school and in their community. So this is a great year to join, and we just encourage any parents or grandparents that see this or anybody that has an interest to do some research, make that phone call,
mm-hmm.
and find out how to start this club and get your student involved.
Of course, and all of the information for our social medias, the contact information for Chris, and my school email will be linked down below. Feel free to reach out to either of us, as our website is down right now for maintenance. If there are any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and we will get to them as soon as we can and respond to them however we see fit.